The Hypogeum skulls of Malta. In the silent precincts beneath Playa, Malta, researchers uncovered a phenomenon that has systematically defied explanation. Human skulls, elongated beyond all normal morphology, discovered amid the labyrinthine chambers of the Ħal Saflieni Hypogeum. The context is stark and documented. This Neolithic subterranean complex, constructed between 3300 and 3000 BCE, is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In 1926, Temi Zammit, a pioneer in Maltese archaeology, catalogued skulls from the Hypogeum, which, unlike any other discovered in the region, were classified as dolichocephalic. These remains, according to Zammit's original reports, bore cranial vaults disproportionate to human anatomy, effectively violating fundamental expectations of Neolithic morphology. The evidence was extensive, over 20 skulls, all exhibiting features incompatible with standard Neolithic populations. Contributing to these findings were ritual artifacts, the enigmatic figurine of the sleeping lady, ochre wall paintings, and material remains methodically extracted from the multi-level crypt. Each point corroborated not only a technically advanced spiritual culture, but also practices whose physiological consequences demanded new explanations. Contemporary anthropologists describe the skulls as exhibiting a craniosynostosis phenotype, a forced elongation that, some argued, could arise only via unknown cultural or biological pressures. Over subsequent decades, the original specimens were subjected to reclassification, misplaced in academic archives, or withdrawn from public display. By the 1980s, independent researchers, guided by fragmentary records, reported systematic suppression. National publications and scientific bloggers accused the Maltese authorities, Heritage Malta and the Superintendents of Cultural Heritage, of orchestrating the classified concealment of evidence. Photographic documentation and specimen inventories proved inconsistent, fueling allegations that these remains had disappeared, perhaps seized or reclassified under orders motivated by fears over their implications. The conflict escalated. Scientific authorities denied any cover-up, but refused independent examination of the skulls, citing national security of cultural property. Some skulls, presented in museum exhibits, sparked technical analysis and international collaboration for advanced genetic sequencing and radiographic evaluation. Yet, critical evidence, the entire original set, remained inaccessible, as if systematically sequestered. The systematic erasure of the most extraordinary crania ever recovered in archaeological context raises fundamental questions. Were the dolichocephalic skulls of Malta the result of now unknown cultural practices, systematic and deliberate cranial deformation? Or do they evidence a biological anomaly or even phenomena transcending current science? Today, what remains is a catalog of technical data, archived reports, and an unresolved enigma. The extraordinary morphology of the Hypogeum skulls persists as a classified riddle within the underworld of Neolithic Malta, a suppressed chapter in the record of human ancestry. What, then, was truly concealed beneath Malta's ancient stone? And why have systematic efforts to separate fact from myth been so consistently thwarted by the very authorities charged with upholding scientific truth? The Sabu disc enigma. In a tomb beneath the sands of Saqqara, Egypt, a tri-lobed stone vessel, known only as the Sabu disc, was discovered, presenting physical evidence of a technology deemed impossible for its chronological context. The disc was unearthed in 1936 by the eminent archaeologist Walter B. Emery within Mastaba S. 3111, the final resting place of an ancient official named Sabu. The object's stratigraphic position leaves no doubt. Dynastic Egypt, First Dynasty, circa 3000 BCE. Emery documented the disc's construction, crafted from metasiltstone, a fragile schistose rock known to shatter at the slightest pressure, and measured precisely 61 centimeters in diameter, with a height of just over 10 centimeters and a central aperture of 8 centimeters. 3 symmetrical fins, or wings, converge toward the hub, each sharply canted as if engineered for rotation or balance. No comparable object, before or after, has been catalogued in Egyptological typologies. Examined alongside thousands of bowls, platters, and ritual vessels unearthed throughout the Nile Valley, the Sabu disk remains a singular anomaly. Conventional interpretations have ranged from a simple incense burner to an ornate decorative bowl, yet none withstand rigorous mechanical analysis. The technical features documented, its weight distribution, the near-perfect geometry of its lobes, and the impossibility of carving such thin radii from brittle siltstone with any known copper or stone tools of its era, defy rationalization. As public fascination grew, the artifacts exhibition at the Cairo Museum fueled extraordinary speculation. A cadre of researchers and reverse engineering enthusiasts produced replicas, subjecting them to wind tunnel tests and rotational mechanical assessments. Some hypothesized the device functioned as a flywheel component, a primitive turbine, or the rotor of an unknown form of impossible technology, one that would violate the established progression of human invention. None, however, provided a function consistent with both design and context. The critical turning point emerged when the artifact drew unwanted attention from academic authorities. Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, wary of international outcry, classified certain technical reports. Researchers requesting direct access to the disk for advanced imaging or material sampling met systematic resistance. Some reports were redacted or removed from circulation under motivation of national security of heritage. Subsequent years saw evidence of suppression escalate. Replicas were withdrawn from some museum displays. Technical photographs disappeared from online catalogs. A select group of government-approved researchers received exclusive authorization, yet their conclusions only reiterated non-committal interpretations. The disk's public narrative shifted, increasingly curtailed by prohibitive museum policy and classified restrictions on independent analysis. Today, the Sabu disk endures as a monolithic enigma, an object that by all evidence should not exist, the documented technology of which was centuries, perhaps millennia, ahead of its time. Was the Sabu disk a vestige of an ancient technology lost to history, or does it represent something still more extraordinary, evidence of knowledge and capability systematically erased from the official record of civilization? Yonaguni's drowned steps. Beneath the relentless currents off Yonaguni, Japan, an immense stone structure rises from the sea floor, defined by angles, terraces, and steps that have systematically challenged the boundaries of geological and archaeological science. Discovered in 1987 by a local diver, the monument lies 25 meters beneath the surface near the southwestern tip of the Ryukyu archipelago. Its colossal proportions, nearly 50 meters long and 20 wide, are rendered in geometric platforms and steep staircases, separated by near-perfect right angles and planar surfaces. The structure's technical details are incontrovertible: large passages, sharp corners, and surfaces polished with a precision rarely paralleled in natural sedimentary environments. Initial assessments by qualified geologists posited a natural origin, tectonic fracturing, seismic shifts, and centuries of underwater erosion. Yet, subsequent documentation by maritime archaeologists and technical divers provided extensive photographic and sonar evidence that, for many, violated the expected patterns of purely geological formations. Researchers noted the systematic repetition of 90-degree cuts, uniform terrace heights, and evidence of potential tool marks, features associated with advanced engineering, not natural processes. A barrage of scientific studies and speculative reports proliferated. Japanese professors such as Dr. Masaki Kimura led underwater surveys, documenting phenomena including possible retaining walls, ceremonial platforms, and even what appeared to be a roadway extending from the main structure. Theoretical chronologies suggested a construction date over 10,000 years ago, a staggering figure which, if proven, would rewrite the history of civilization in East Asia. Alternative hypotheses classified the site as the remnant of a proto-Japanese Atlantis, suppressed by cataclysmic sea level rise at the end of the last ice age. As public fascination intensified, fueled by documentary films, online forums, and speculative media, the conflict between mainstream geology and pseudo-archaeological theorists escalated. National agencies and academic institutions doubled down on their stance. Strict denial of any anthropogenic involvement, systematic marginalization of researchers advancing alternative claims, and the classified restriction of independent underwater exploration permits. The Japanese government, citing national security of heritage and environmental risks, implemented limitations on access, further suppressing evidence. Satellite data, high-resolution scans, and new dives have been controlled by authorities in collaboration with international research organizations, ostensibly to prevent disturbance, but, in the eyes of many, to maintain the official narrative. Today, the Yonaguni monument stands as a submerged anomaly, a megalithic riddle impervious to convenient classification. It endures as a convergence point for competing systems of evidence, classified data, and suppressed investigations. Is the Yonaguni structure a product of extraordinary geology, or does it represent evidence of an advanced civilization, systematically erased by ancient catastrophe and modern authority? Puma Punku's impossible joints. On the windswept plateau of Bolivia, in the shadow of Lake Titicaca, researchers have documented stone blocks whose construction systematically violates the known limits of ancient engineering, evidence concentrated at the site of Puma Punku. Puma Punku, a monumental platform within the larger Tiwanaku complex, dates to the 6th century CE. Nearly 3,900 meters above sea level, its megalithic stones, some weighing over 100 tons, are cut with an extraordinary precision unaccounted for by documented local technology. Petrographic analyses confirm the use of andesite and red sandstone, both materials of significant hardness, shaped into perfect right angles, interlocking H-blocks, and seamless geometric modulations. The technical data is staggering. Modern measurement tools reveal tolerances of less than 1 millimeter between adjacent joins, surface polish and angularity matching the standards of laser-guided fabrication. Each stone, some extending over 7 meters in length, features systematically drilled holes, symmetrically paired notches, and modular cuts. These engineering anomalies have been cataloged by teams from German, Bolivian, and American institutes, none of which have supplied an orthodox, experimentally verified protocol for stone shaping and placement, especially with the region's documented absence of advanced metallurgy or the wheel. Narratives abound regarding the logistics of transport and assembly. Orthodox explanations rely on vast conscript labor, stone hammers, and simple ramps, but the evidence for such infrastructure is classified as limited or non-existent. The mere relocation of andesite from quarries over 90 kilometers distant, across rugged terrain, defies practical reconstruction. Experimental archaeology efforts, published in peer-reviewed journals, consistently fail to replicate the millimetric fit found at Puma Punku, even with modern equipment. Academic authorities, fearing a paradigm shift in our understanding of ancient technology, have systematically suppressed alternative hypotheses. Claims invoking lost technologies, mechanical cutters, vibrational tools, or even electromagnetic processes have been methodically marginalized in both scientific discourse and public exhibitions. Research grants for non-orthodox investigations have been curtailed, fieldwork restricted, and findings not conforming to mainstream consensus have been designated as classified. Decades of suppression and conflicting agendas have buried the most extraordinary evidence of all. The ruins themselves remain open, yet their secrets endure behind a wall of institutional inertia, selective access, and the systematic dismissal of uncomfortable questions. Is Puma Punku the legacy of a civilization whose technological mastery was erased by time and by the scientific establishment intent on safeguarding conventional history? Or does it represent a recurring pattern, evidence that, when it violates fundamental beliefs, is classified and suppressed for generations? Nabta Playa's Star Circle. Deep in the desolate basin of southern Egypt, researchers documented a stone circle whose astronomical precision and antiquity have systematically destabilized conventional narratives of prehistoric science. An enigma best exemplified by the calendar at Nabta Playa. Nabta Playa is not a monumental landscape like Giza or Stonehenge, but a remote, arid depression that was, over 7,000 years ago, a thriving epicenter of pastoral civilization. Archaeological teams from the University of Chicago and the Egyptian Geological Museum began systematic surveys in the late 20th century, uncovering an array of megalithic features, concentric circles, radiating lines, and, at the center, a cluster of vertical slabs now classified as the calendar circle. The technical evidence surpasses prior expectations for Neolithic construction. Precise alignments mark the sunrise at the summer solstice, while pairs of stones track the rising positions of Arcturus, Sirius, and possibly even Alpha Centauri across multimillennial precessions. Meticulous stratigraphic analyses have dated portions of the complex to well before 4,500 BCE, a staggering conclusion that implies systematic astronomical observations long before the pyramids. Even more extraordinary is the ritual context documented at the site. Excavations of the central tumulus revealed, beneath a compacted surface, the fully articulated skeleton of a domesticated cow, arranged with technical care, yet conspicuously absent any human remains. Associated pottery shards, cattle bones, and ochre pigments point toward a sophisticated ceremonial system, revering the celestial and the bovine in tandem. The turning point arrived when these findings were synthesized for academic publication. Renowned researchers put forth the hypothesis of an African Stonehenge, a prehistoric observatory evidencing knowledge of solar and stellar cycles hitherto classified as impossible for the period. Within months, the thesis was challenged. Mainstream archaeologists invoked alternate explanations, mere coincidental placements, non-astronomical ritual organization, or distortion by subsequent settlement activity. Reports advocating the astronomical model met systematic marginalization, while access to the site and original survey records grew increasingly restricted. Local authorities, swayed by concerns over national security of the cultural record, began to confine external research efforts. Independent conferences were curtailed. Only select, government-approved teams received permits, with publication rights systematically limited, evidence, some alleged, of institutional suppression. Today, Nabta Playa's star circle stands as a classified threshold, either the material evidence of advanced, impossible knowledge, or a controversy subjected to systematic obfuscation in defense of conventional paradigms. Does the calendar circle mark the forgotten origins of science, now suppressed by the guardians of archaeological orthodoxy? Or does it signify yet another chapter of extraordinary evidence, erased in favor of the acceptable narrative? The Piri Reis paradox. In the vaults of Istanbul's Topkapı Palace, curators cataloged a 16th century map whose contents systematically violated contemporary cartographic possibility, a parchment chart signed by the Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis. The map, rediscovered in 1929 during palace renovations, bears an explicit date, 1513. Piri Reis, a renowned naval commander, painstakingly documented his sources. He referenced nearly 20 antecedent charts, most now lost to history, including mapping documents from Portuguese, Arab, and even one from Christopher Columbus himself. Among its most extraordinary features is the depiction of a landmass at the southern extremes, one that many identified as the northern extent of Antarctica, rendered centuries before the continent's documented discovery. Technical analysis of the Piri Reis map's coastal outlines shows anomalies unaccounted for by official Renaissance-era knowledge. Some researchers allege a close match with seismic scans of Antarctica's subglacial coastline, as if charted in an epoch predating the current polar ice cap. Others point to mathematical techniques for projecting spherical geography that would not be formally codified until centuries later. Examination of the ink, vellum, and stylistic cartouches has yielded hard, documented evidence that the artifact is genuine for its date. The conflict escalated in the mid-20th century when Professor Charles Hapgood's controversial book, Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, advanced the theory of a lost civilization whose classified knowledge of global geography systematically predated all accepted history. The suggestion that such evidence endured into the Ottoman era was, and remains, an existential threat to the mainstream historical paradigm. In official responses, Turkish heritage authorities and the international academic establishment have argued that the southern landmass represents the Renaissance myth of Terra Australis Incognita, a purely hypothetical continent created by speculative extrapolation. As the debate intensified, governments and museums began restricting direct researcher access to the original document. Digital reproductions were tightly controlled, while classified portions of expedition notes and correspondence were withdrawn from public circulation. Forensic studies seeking to analyze pigment composition or parchment age were conducted under layers of institutional review, with results published selectively or redacted without explanation. To this day, the Piri Reis map stands as a paradox, its details simultaneously compelling and systematically obfuscated. Attempts to test the extraordinary claims it inspires have been curtailed by both national and international agencies, each citing the protection of cultural integrity and national security. Is the Piri Reis map a legacy of a vanished science, a fragment of classified knowledge re-emerging in an era not ready to confront its consequences? Or is it a meticulously suppressed document, its true origins and implications erased to safeguard the systems of accepted history? The Antikythera Code, recovered from the depths of the Aegean near the island of Antikythera, a corroded assemblage of bronze gears and dials, now classified as the Antikythera mechanism, bears systematic witness to a technological capacity previously thought impossible for its era. The Antikythera mechanism was salvaged in 1901 by Greek sponge divers exploring a shipwreck dated to the 1st century BCE. Initial analysis yielded only fragments, a mass of oxidized cogs and plates spread across 82 discrete pieces. Radiographic and tomographic investigation by teams from the National Archaeological Museum of Athens soon documented a configuration of at least 30 bronze gears, arranged in compound epicycloid configurations seldom seen until a millennium later. Inscribed dials show cycles for the Sun, Moon, and 5 known planets. A revolutionary spiral mechanism tracks the Saros cycle, a pattern of eclipses known primarily from Babylonian astronomical archives. Factual evidence of the device's complexity accumulated. X-ray tomography, conducted with national and international collaboration, revealed a hierarchy of mechanical computation. Differential gearing, Geneva stops, and variable output couples. The inscriptions provided instructions for adjusting the calendar for both lunar and solar events, as well as for predicting eclipses and staging Pan-Hellenic athletic competitions. No other known artifact from the Greco-Roman world demonstrates such technical sophistication. The turning point arrived during 20th century restoration efforts, when it became increasingly clear that the Antikythera mechanism fundamentally violated long-accepted historical models. Scholars observed that such analog computers would expect a continuum of documented evolution, blueprints, simpler precursors, intermediate prototypes. Yet, the archaeological record is silent. The device's existence is classified as anachronistic in the strictest sense, a quantum leap in mechanical engineering with no apparent precedent. This revelation, profoundly threatening to the established order, prompted a systematic campaign of suppression. For decades, access to the fragments and imaging data was tightly rationed. National heritage authorities classified certain research findings, restricting publication rights and peer review. Competing reconstructions of the device, whether virtual or physical, were met with embargoes and redacted documentation. The code revealed by the Antikythera fragments was, for a generation, maintained as a scientific secret, too contrary to the accepted progression of invention. Currently, the Antikythera mechanism occupies a paradoxical role within academic circles. Public exhibitions provide only sanitized accounts of its function, carefully circumscribed within interpretations that minimize its revolutionary implications. Does the Antikythera Code represent the systematically erased apex of a vanished technological tradition? Or is it a reminder that, when the evidence violates the established order, knowledge itself becomes a classified commodity, revealed only to those who control the narrative? Longyou's impossible caverns. Beneath the fields of Zhejiang, China, an impossible feat of ancient engineering was systematically revealed. 24 immense artificial caverns, hand-carved in silence and secrecy. their origins erased from recorded history. In 1992, villagers draining a series of so-called bottomless ponds at Xi'an Beikun made a staggering discovery beneath their feet. What emerged was not the expected natural cave or watercourse, but a vast subterranean environment, precisely excavated, interconnected chambers, extending over 30,000 square meters. Detailed topographical surveys and laser scans have documented each chamber's parallel walls, uniformly angled columns, and surfaces marked with a distinctive pattern. Parallel striations covering every exposed plane, evidence of a construction process both systematic and technologically rigorous. The physical evidence is classified as overwhelming. Structural analysis reveals support pillars positioned at mathematically calculated intervals, preventing collapse across vast spans. Ceramics recovered from deeper fill layers date sections of excavation to the Han Dynasty, over 2,000 years ago, but definitive documentation of the construction period remains elusive. No ancient Chinese chronicles mention the project, no folklore records the labor, design, or intended purpose of the complex. The removal and disposal of nearly 1 million cubic meters of stone from the caverns remains a logistical impossibility, given the population and technology attested in historical sources. The turning point occurred when local tourism bureaus and the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences commenced systematic investigation and promotion. Archaeologists, engineers, and speleologists convened. Theories circulated: ceremonial center, underground palace, military refuge, or water storage. None were substantiated by direct evidence. No tools, inscriptions, or debris piles have ever been recovered. Open questions regarding technical methodology, lighting, ventilation, planning, and project management were raised but never resolved. Authorities, wary of inciting public speculation, initiated controlled tours while classifying many engineering assessments. Requests by independent international experts for high-resolution scans, core samples, or volumetric analysis were systematically denied. Local officials cited national security, conservation, and protection of cultural relics as pretexts for limiting release of new data and site access. Despite the vast openness of the chambers themselves, answers remain confined, sealed by a culture of suppression and a bureaucratic wall that preserves official uncertainty. Scholars insist on conventional explanations, yet no evidence of construction or purpose has ever been documented in the historical record. Were the Longyou caverns proof of a systematically forgotten branch of lost engineering, erased by political or cultural upheaval? Or are they a classified anomaly, evidence rendered invisible by a system invested in the preservation of ignorance, the Indus script lock? In the shadowed river valleys of modern Pakistan and northwestern India, archaeologists have documented an advanced urban civilization that left behind a systematically undeciphered system of writing, a script that has defied every attempt at translation for more than a century. The Indus Valley Civilization, flourishing between 3,300 and 1,300 BCE, is responsible for the dense remains of hundreds of urban sites: Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, Dholavira, and more. Excavations continue to yield an immense catalog of artifacts: etched seals, inscribed tablets, and pottery marked with sequences of sharply defined pictograms and geometric motifs. The fundamental technical evidence is clear. The script comprises hundreds of distinct graphemes, with documented frequency distributions and recurrent compound structures. Its brevity, inscriptions rarely exceed 15 symbols, has defeated ordinary cryptographic procedures. Decades of statistical, computational, and linguistic analyses have systematically failed to produce even a probable alphabet or direct phonetic value for a single symbol. Throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, documented attempts at decipherment have numbered in the hundreds. Major institutions from India, Pakistan, Europe, and North America have organized research teams, each deploying revolutionary techniques: AI translation algorithms, quantum computational assessments, and comparative studies with Proto-Elamite or Sumerian texts. None have yielded demonstrable results. The persistent lock of the Indus script has become, in expert circles, legendary. conflict over interpretations was inevitable. Some researchers claim the system was not a true language, but a symbolic code used for trade, ritual, or property marking. Others allege deliberate suppression of promising leads, arguing that national pride, regional rivalries, and even governmental bodies systematically classified promising clues for reasons of national security, particularly in the wake of the Tamil Nadu announcement offering a $1 million reward for decipherment. Recent years have witnessed further escalation. Some believe that institutional competition has led to the systematic sabotage of international collaboration, that academic teams tasked with cross-validating new decryptions have intentionally withheld, redacted, or destroyed evidence. Archival access to original seals and tablets has become more restricted, and key discoveries have been withdrawn from public exhibition without explanation. The Indus script endures as a profound and unsolved anomaly, a quantum leap in early symbolic communication, whose technical sophistication remains documented but unexplained. Does the script conceal knowledge that, if unlocked, would fundamentally revise our understanding of civilization itself? Or is its continued mystery the evidence of a systematic pattern, where discoveries that violate established paradigms are classified, suppressed, and erased from view? The Syrian desert circles. Scattered across the basaltic plains of the Levant, in the unforgiving expanse of the Syrian desert, circles of ancient stones and enigmatic desert kites present systematic evidence of a vanished knowledge, one that transcends established timelines and technical understanding. Satellite imagery and aerial surveys, initiated in the late 20th century by Anglo-Syrian archaeological teams, revealed thousands of stone-built structures stretching across Jordan, Syria, and Saudi Arabia. Among these are vast stone circles, some up to 70 meters in diameter, often aligned with cardinal directions and, in some cases, with documented astronomical precision. The technical data is extraordinary. Solar modeling software, operated by researchers at Oxford and the Arab Center for the Study of Arid Zones, has documented consistent alignments with solstice sunrise and sunset events. The geometry of these circles frequently exhibits patterns, rays, spokes, and enclosures, so precise as to suggest deliberate design, rather than accidental deposition. Accompanying these enigmatic circles are the so-called desert kites, gigantic stone-walled funnels systematically constructed to trap migrating game. Carbon dating and typological classification place their origins in the Neolithic, at least 8,000 years old, predating known civilizations in the region. Remote sensing has confirmed an extensive network of connected sites, forming an artificial landscape on a staggering scale. The escalation came with the hypothesis, formally advanced in classified reports circulated among regional academic institutions, that these installations represent more than hunting traps or ceremonial markers. Some propose their organized layouts point to a lost tradition of landscape astronomy. Others allege that local authorities, fearing the implications of such a paradigm shift, have refused demands for comprehensive excavation and high-resolution documentation. Over the last decade, increasing instability across the region has compounded the classified nature of these sites. Military officials, citing national security considerations, have restricted access for foreign researchers and embargoed new excavation permits. Drones and satellite imagery are routinely censored or selectively released, while announcements of significant discoveries are suppressed by state media outlets. In the end, the Syrian desert circles and kites remain in situ, their purpose and builders systematically erased by both millennia of erosion and cycles of modern conflict and suppression. Do these stone arrangements embody a quantum leap in ancient astronomical and ecological engineering? Or are they the final evidence, systematically buried in silence, of a civilization whose knowledge was classified and suppressed before it could ever be understood? These 10 vanished civilizations are not merely outliers. Each is a systematic demonstration of the extraordinary that persists at the hidden edges of history. Together, their legacy is more than lost architecture or undeciphered artifacts. They comprise a catalog of phenomena, technologies, and encoded knowledge that has been classified, suppressed, and systematically erased by powerful forces fearful of their consequences. There is documented evidence throughout these stories that every epoch produces revelations deemed too dangerous for the prevailing order. Breakthroughs confined, discoveries obfuscated, histories rewritten under the gravity of national security and institutional preservation. The pattern is unmistakable. Time and again, researchers and visionaries have encountered barriers, walls of silence, concealed archives, and relentless campaigns to ensure that certain truths remain beyond the reach of ordinary inquiry. In the labyrinth beneath Malta, the stone circle in the Sahara, the drowned steppes off Yonaguni, and the encrypted relics of the Indus, the fingerprints of suppression are everywhere. Perhaps it is not ignorance that defines our understanding of the past, but the systems that safeguard it, the classified ghost architecture engineered to contain the staggering consequences of knowledge that threatens existing powers. In every vanished civilization, in every suppressed discovery, the same question lingers. What else has been deleted from our collective memory by those entrusted with its preservation?